thank you for joining us for this SU Question Time event. My name is Will. I'm the Deputy Chair of Student Council. We're going to start the recording now. We'll be recording this, and also we'll have captions on for accessibility purposes as well. Just to remind everyone that the voting will start at 12 a.m. on the 22nd of February and close at 7 p.m. on the 26th of February. We'll be using the hashtag Spring Elections 2021 tonight on social media if you want to kind of keep up to date with that. And we'll also try and have an access break either at the hour or after the Faculty of Social Science candidates have spoken and had their questions. So yeah, this is today's kind of agenda. We've got six candidates, six different positions today, which is on your screen right now. We'll also have Yaz and Lindsay that will be helping me throughout tonight. Just to reiterate what I said a few minutes ago, each candidate will have 2 minutes to have a speech. At 1 minute 30, I'll kind of say that you've got 30 seconds to go. I'll put my hand up, and at the 2 minute mark, I'll kind of try and interrupt and stop you from carrying on. We'll go down the candidates in the order that they're on the screen. If any candidate has a problem with their mic or anything, we'll try and give them a few seconds to kind of fix it. But if it takes too long, then we're going to have to move on, sadly, just because of time. After all the candidates have spoken, we'll then open up questions to the audience if anyone's got some questions. And then the questions will be answered in reverse order, so going up the screen, just so it's fair to everyone. And can we make sure that also the questions are not individualized and that every candidate can answer the questions? I'd also, Yaz, can you show the next slide? I think it might be on the safe space policy.
Oh, give me 1 second. Might just have to
no worries.
Show the other screen instead. Bear with me. Safe space policies. This one here. Yeah, go on, Karen.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, the SU operates a safe space policy in online events, as you can see on the screen. So we'll be using this today, and yeah, just make sure that none of your language is offensive to anyone in the chat today, or you'll be swiftly removed by me or Yaz. Okay, I think we can make a start. I've talked for long enough. Let's go on to the first position, shall we? Faculty of Arts. So could the first candidate, Jack, please, could we have you unmute yourself? Or Yaz, could you give an invite to unmute?
Yeah, give me 1 second, sorry. Doing it now.
Sorry, everyone, for the technical difficulties. We normally use WebEx, but today we're using Microsoft Teams.
They should be able to unmute themselves.
Jack, can you unmute yourself?
I don't see Jack in the chat.
Okay. Well, if Jack isn't in the chat, then we can go to Jake Newbury. If Jake is here as well.
Similarly, I don't see Jack in the chat.
That's great. And I think for Sydney, do we have a written statement from Sydney? Or
yeah, that's correct. That's a written speech. So let me know when you want me to start with that.
Yeah, I think we'll go ahead with that now if none of the candidates have turned up.
Cool. Okay. Hi, I'm Sydney. Apologies, I cannot be here in person today. I am standing to be re-elected as one of your arts faculty reps. I have had the pleasure of representing arts students this year, and I would love to continue that. I have been involved in academic representation since my first year, being a course rep on the Joint Honours History SSLC, which I chair this year. I also became chair of the SU Education Committee this year, which has given insight even deeper into the university and SU and the challenges we face in having our concerns heard in both. My main goal stays the same: continue fighting to ensure students' voices are listened to at all levels, all the way from our courses to faculty to senior leadership. I wish to see SSLCs and the new department reps given more power, visibility, and influence in decision making, and open up new ways for reps to collaborate within the arts faculty. Considering the way this year has turned out, it has highlighted that students are often ignored in our own education, and this cannot be allowed to continue. In the hopeful return to normality next academic year, I believe it's important to put students at the centre of decisions about what next year will look like and what should be kept from or left behind in 2020-2021. We don't want to keep paying for an education we appear to have little say in. If that and the rest of my manifesto appeals to you, please do consider voting for me to be one of your arts faculty reps for next year.
Thank you, Yaz. As none of the candidates have bothered to turn up today, I think we'll move straight on to the next position, which is Faculty of Science, Engineering and Medicine. So we've got two candidates for this position. Could the first candidate on screen please unmute, if we can do that, if Alex is here.
Hi.
Hey.
You guys see me?
Yes, we can see you.
Cool.
You've got 2 minutes, and I'll put my hand up to notify you when you've got 30 seconds left.
No worries.
The floor is yours.
Yeah, it's pretty short anyway. So hi, I'm Alex. I'm a third year chemistry student, and I'm currently running to be re-elected for faculty rep for SEM. And my main focuses are on mental health services, peer mentoring, diversity, and communication. As I mentioned before, I'm already a faculty rep, and I've done some work around peer mentoring. So my big focus will be on that next year, trying to set in stone some policies by reviewing all mentoring systems in place, as I know there are a lot currently running, and producing a guide of best practices. However, I would like to say that I am here for all students and will voice the opinions given to me, and I want to ensure that all students, that I'm open to talk about any faculty level issues they're having and bring it forward to their committee.
Thank you, Alex. We'll now move on to the second candidate on the screen. Is Prince here? I don't think so. I don't think we have them here tonight. If there are any questions for Alex, then we'll go straight to the audience questions. If anyone has a question, feel free to put your hand up now to ask Alex any questions.
I don't see any hands up, Will.
Okay. I'll actually ask a question just on behalf of the students. Alex, could you tell us what you've done in your position currently and what you aim to expand upon next year if you keep this position into the next academic year?
Yeah, sure. So as a SEM rep of Science, Engineering and Medicine, I am the only undergraduate representative to have been to all faculty level committees and have voiced at most of them. What I do aim to continue on is work done by Alex Baker, a postgraduate faculty rep. He's done great work in terms of diversity and decolonization. However, he is leaving next year, and so I just wouldn't want that effort and the papers that he's done to go to waste. So I'll be definitely working on that moving forward.
Thank you, Alex. I guess if we don't have any more questions from the audience, I'll give a few more seconds if anyone wants to put their hand up to ask all the candidates a question. Obviously, we've only got one with us tonight. Okay, if we don't have any hands, we can move on to the next position, Yaz. So the next position is the Faculty of Social Science. We have 4 candidates for this position. Could the first candidate on the screen please unmute themselves, and feel free to test your mic, test your camera.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. Yeah, the floor is yours, 2 minutes for your speech.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Ananya Bagri. I am a first-year law student, and I am running to be your social sciences faculty representative. I would describe myself as empathetic and committed. I get my work done, and I always go above and beyond in everything that I try to do. I listen carefully, and I'm very approachable. And as a person, I tend to look for solutions rather than dwelling on problems. I'm running for this position because I want to represent students within social sciences as a unified and collective body. I want to ensure that everybody has an equal voice that's heard, and most importantly, I want to bring students within the social sciences to the forefront of every single discussion. I have some very important or key priorities that have been outlined already in my manifesto, but to quickly take you through them, one of my priorities is to create a community. I believe that now more than ever, there is a need to foster a stronger sense of community, as international students are all over the world, domestic students are all over the UK. Most of us aren't currently at Warwick. Some of us haven't even been on campus. And therefore, in light of these trying times, one of my main areas would be trying to focus on building the sense of community. And I do have some very clear, well-defined goals for that as well. For instance, one of my ideas is to create an interdisciplinary virtual study space that would, I think, help boost morale for everybody, and it would be a great way to make new friends and also to feel supported. Some of my other policies include becoming interdisciplinary, allowing students across the social sciences faculty to have access to professional support through academic counselors in different departments, looking into the possibility of students taking optional elective modules from other departments, and of course creating a database of alumni in every field that's accessible to students within social sciences. You can read more about my policies in my manifesto, and I do hope you take the time to do that. But I just wanted to say that my main goal as a social sciences faculty representative is to represent your concerns. And I have been a SSLC course rep for law in the past, and I believe that this, alongside some of my other positions, would put me in a good position.
Thank you very much. That's the 2 minutes. Thank you very much. I think we have a statement from the second candidate on the screen. If Yaz wants to read that out.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, that's cool.
Cool. Hello, everyone. I'd like to start by apologizing for not being able to make it tonight. However, I hope this speech answers any questions you may have about my candidacy. So right to it. My name is Maurizio Cutting, and I'm a second-year PPL student and the current chair of the PPL SSLC. I was born in Venezuela and moved to the UK in 2010. I am passionate about human rights and aspire to become a diplomat working in matters of security and conflict resolution. Now that's enough about me. Let me tell you why I want to be your next faculty rep. I'm running to be your next social sciences faculty rep because I believe I have what it takes to deliver real results. My philosophy has always been that good governance and representation demands that elected representatives actively reach out and listen to their constituents. Over the past few years, I've had the absolute privilege to serve in a number of different capacities, making this philosophy a reality. Whether as a former youth councillor and lead for democracy, a former deputy member of youth parliament, or in my current capacity as chair of the PPL SSLC, I've always sought to reach out to my constituents and lobby as hard as possible for their demands. Engagement is something I have always valued and goes to the heart of the sort of faculty rep I will be if elected. With me, it's easy. There's no empty promises, no hidden clauses, just results. It's quite simple, actually. If you want a fighter and a proven leader who will work to make sure your voice is heard on the Academic Council, then elect me. Thank you for listening, and I hope you will consider my candidacy. Best of luck to the other candidates. Maurizio.
Thank you very much, Yaz. We'll now move on to the third candidate on the screen. Could they please unmute and feel free to test your mic and your video?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, well, hi folks. I'm Ollie, he, him, a second year politics, philosophy and law student. I'm standing for the position of faculty rep for social sciences to continue the work I've been doing to support students and help everyone get the most out of their time at Warwick. I've been a representative and secretary of my department's SSLC each year, and I've also been a member of the SU's Education Committee this year. from surveying PPL students on their experiences of teaching and learning in 2021 to lobbying for better mitigation and wellbeing support in light of the numerous challenges this year. I'm keen to carry on working on your behalf to make sure each and every one of our community receives the care and support they need to flourish. I've got a couple of commitments this year. First and most importantly, listening to you. I want to hear how students are finding their time here at Warwick. And I'm keen in particular to hear about your academic experiences. Warwick is rightly recognised as one of the best and most prestigious unis in the whole of the UK, with an excellent track record of academic success. But there's always room for improvement, particularly while our university, our community, and the nation more broadly are re-examining what HE looks like after the disruption we've had so far this year. Secondly, I'm deeply committed to facilitating inclusivity and accessibility. I'm a mature student myself who returned to education through a non-traditional access pathway. So pitching into broadening the work of inclusivity and accessibility is really important to me. I'm committed to continuing the excellent work that others have done in these respects, and this is going to be one of the core principles behind the work I do. I'm also keen to support you and develop your skills, particularly in regard to well-being and skills that students can use to improve their studying abilities, particularly whilst grappling with all the disruption and upheaval this year has thrown at us. I'm committed to doing everything I can to make sure Warwick is offering the best and most supportive environment possible for you, whether that be in terms of building your skill set and confidence through teaching and training, working to reduce unnecessary burdens on your learning, or pursuing for broader changes to the issues you care about. Finally, helping you succeed. I think now more than ever, it's important that students receive the best toolset possible to prepare them for the future. This means making sure that you not only get the best possible range of study options to spark your passions if you aren't sure where you're going yet, but also making the most supportive and complete educational experience possible to get you where you want to go. As our community decides what the new normal is going to look like, I'll work to make sure the quality of your academics experience is front and centre.
Thank you, Ollie.
Thanks.
Okay, can we please have the fourth candidate to speak, if they are in the chat?
Don't think I see them all.
That's cool. Okay, if they are not here, then we can open the floor up to questions from anyone in the audience. If anyone has a question for the social science candidates, then feel free to put your hand up and we'll be able to unmute you and you can ask the question. Okay, if we don't have any questions, then we can move on to our next position. It's going much quicker than I anticipated, but that's not to worry. Yes, could we have the next slide? Thanks. Okay, so we're now on to the LGBTQUA+ officer. We have two candidates for this position. If we could have the first candidate to speak, if they want to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You have 2 minutes. Start whenever you want.
Okay, right. Hello, I'm Jacob. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm standing to be your next LGBTQUA+ officer. I'm a first-year PACE student here at Warwick, currently at home in Bournemouth, and as cliche as it sounds, I'm running for this role to bring about some much-needed change to the university and make it a more inclusive environment for everyone. We've all struggled recently, so I want to make sure everyone can get the support they need, particularly those of us in the queer community who feel disproportionately more isolated than our fellow students. Drawing from my experience as the LGBT+ officer for my local Bournemouth constituency Labour Party, where I sit on the executive committee, I will work with the other student officers to represent the queer community on campus. This role helped me to understand how difficult it can be to work in a team of varying interests, but more importantly, how to get my voice heard on the points that matter. If elected, I have 3 main areas that I want to work on, and that's standing with marginalised groups and tackling stereotypes that are rooted in bigotry that have plagued this community for far too long, pushing for greater access to LGBTQUA+ specific mental health resources with a particular focus on those issues of loneliness and isolation,
and I want to work with the Trans Liberation Officer to encourage university-wide pronoun usage or adoption in staff and student profiles. I know that these goals are realistic and I will be able to deliver them. And with your support, I want to stand up for all students at Warwick and ensure that the university is held accountable in their actions. Obviously, making sure students have a say in key decisions has never been more important. So I look forward to hearing any ideas or feedback you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jacob. Okay, so now could we have the second candidates to speak? Just to remind them that it's still 2 minutes for the speech, but you can obviously split mics, like 1 minute each or whatever time split you want to do. So if they are in the chat now, then feel free to unmute and speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Noga, is your mic working? Noga? I don't think your mic's on.
Are we having some technical issues?
Yeah, I think so.
That's
so
okay.
It says it's unmuted. So do you want to try it again?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, it's really quiet. Really quiet. Like it's so quiet that I can hear you, but I can't hear what you're saying. Do you want to just try a different mic or something? Because I can see that you're using a headphone. So try a different mic and then see what works from there.
Okay, she said she's going to try and fix it. So I'm the start of the speech anyway, so we'll try and do that.
Cool.
Okay. So should I start?
Yeah, feel free whenever you want to.
Hi, I'm Kirsten, and Noga and I are co-running to be your LGBT+ officers. I'm a bisexual woman. I go by she, her pronouns, and Noga is queer, non-binary, and goes by they, she, and he pronouns. We're standing under the education, not exploitation slate, and are passionate activists who will fight for queer liberation at every chance through building queer wellbeing, queer connections, and education and support. We believe that LGBT+ Warwick students deserve a strong community that can provide mutual support through our unique experiences, strengthening our campus lives through solidarity and a collective vision for a better future. We would achieve this through a range of formal and informal events, from wellbeing groups, speaking panels, coffee mornings, and, when we finally can, parties. We're also keen to improve queer education across campus, particularly in raising awareness of same-sex sexual assault and queer history. I'm now going to try and pass over to Noga.
Thanks, Kirsten. I hope you guys can hear me. As a team, we've come to this election with a wealth of organising experience and fighting for LGBT+ rights. We've both run multiple school societies, including pride clubs, and as accomplished speakers and debaters, Kirsten spent over 200+ hours volunteering for local and national charities, learning how to support those struggling through queer traumas, and mentoring within community projects. Myself, I ran the school climate strikes at an international level. I've worked alongside groups such as Lesbians and Gays Support the Migrants, and I've been recognised as one of 2019's most influential Londoners. We've both spent so much time dedicated to social justice and trying to fix oppression in our society, whilst also having to struggle with discrimination for so long. We understand what it means to fight for inclusivity and liberation for queer people from all backgrounds, and if elected, we will do everything in our power and more to do just that. If you vote for Noga and Kirsten for your LGBT+ officers, we can build a strong and caring queer community, fight for queer wellbeing, end same-sex sexual assault on campus, and ensure queer students finally get the fulfilling university experience we deserve.
Thank you very much. If we want to open the floor now to questions, any questions for the candidates, obviously make the questions for all the candidates. Yeah, I think we have a hand up from Bede and also Megan. If we can go Bede and then Megan. Yeah, do you have to unmute them or?
No, they should be able to do it themselves.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So a lot of, I'm the current trans officer for, if you don't know me, a lot of what you do as LGBT officer involves meetings with the university, and anyone who has spent any time with the university knows they're not particularly keen on any kind of reform or change. So I was wondering how you plan on navigating the university not wanting to support you or your programs or plans, specifically if you're feeling really pro in the LGBT task force?
So the way we're going to do this is we'll go the reverse order up the candidates list, and then after the response to Bede's question, then we'll get the question from Megan. So if the last people that spoke want to speak now, then that'll be great.
Great. I think I'll take this one over Kirsten. Both of us have spent quite a lot of time engaging in different social justice activities, as we talked about earlier. A lot of these have managed to avoid bureaucracy or even surpass them. And we're very lucky that we've got this experience of being able to find very clever ways around what is available to us and what isn't. As queer people, we all have the shared experience of having to be subtle about activities, of having to sort of stay in secret. And we're hoping that the manifesto plans that we've brought forward, from just arranging informal events to holding mental health sessions, that we can create and put together as a team without much need for immense funding or without having to go through the university for every tiny thing. We can offer support for our community for queer traumas, that other wellbeing services that may have more access from the university and receive more funding and support may not always be able to understand. And as a result, it's important for us to recognise that the bureaucracy won't always work for us, but we have ways of managing around that, and we'll also campaign for the university to accept that we're here and we're queer and we want to change and we do want reform, we do want to be respected, just like all of the other marginalised groups across the university.
Thank you very much. If the next candidate wants to say anything about the question just asked.
Yeah, of course. It's sort of the same vein of answer. Like I said before, I have experience working as part of an executive committee for the Labour Party, and I'm sure you can imagine that there's some pretty crazy levels of bureaucracy around that, and it's quite a lot of my time was spent working around sort of other people in the party and trying to work around certain levels to get what I wanted to be done pushed through. So, I mean, using that experience, I would say I'm very confident in sort of tackling these sorts of approaches head on, and I'm not afraid to confront other people, especially other people as part of with the students, officers, and with the university itself. I'm very confident in making sure that they can hear what I have to say and not sort of letting down.
Thank you. If we could now have the question from Megan, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Yeah. Thank you to both sets of candidates. You both mentioned in your speeches about your experience that has led to you running for this role. So my question is, how will you use this experience to inform your work as LGBT officers should you be successful?
So just the same order as last time. So if we go like the reverse order back up the list, that'll be great.
Okay, so I'll take this one. So we do have collectively so much experience but with just organising in general, but not all of it is necessarily related to LGBT rights. However, so many of those skills that we've brought from those experiences are so transferable, like leadership, having community and being able to effectively listen to one another and work together. And that would be so essential to create a strong queer community on campus. So all of our experience will come together to help us really come through with that.
Thank you. The next candidate.
Hi. So yeah, I agree. Really, sort of a similar theme. The experience I have is particularly in leadership. I mean, through roles within my sixth form, I took quite a few different sort of leadership positions, and using that experience, like before, I'm very confident in sort of having my voice heard, but also in something that's very important, obviously being compromised. I think everyone knows that it's impossible to always get what you want the way you want it. So the most sort of important thing I would have learned from all my experience applying it to this position is knowing when to compromise and how to do so.
Thank you. Next, we'll take a question from Magisha, just because Bede, you have asked the question before, so we'll come back to you after. Yeah, if you want to, Magisha, want to ask your question now.
Hi guys, thank you for both your answers. I just had a question about how you intend to tackle same-sex sexual assault on campus.
Thank you. If this time we go down the list again, just so it's fair for all the candidates.
Yeah, okay, sure. So that's a great question. I think the main way I would look at that is through sorts of outreach programs and ensuring that the resources for support are there in the first place, so that victims of sexual assault are able to get the help they need. And obviously, we all know that the issue of sexual assault at the University of Warwick is, sorry, just my siblings in the background. The issue of sexual assault at the University of Warwick is important, probably the most important one we've discussed today. But yeah, I just want to focus on ensuring the resources are there and focusing on through education to help people understand the resources that are available to them, and they reach out and don't stay silent.
Thanks. The next candidate, you're free to answer.
Great, thank you. So we've actually already got a plan and policy for this. We're looking to work directly with specialised charities such as Gallup and Crossack, as well as Coventry Haven Women's Aid, which, other than Women's Aid, are all specialised support centres for domestic violence, abuse, and support for LGBT+ communities, and are non-discriminatory rape and crisis centres. On top of directly integrating these into the workshops and mental health sessions to support queer wellbeing at the university, we're also looking to establish regular normalised sex ed workshop to normalise sex ed from queer or straight sex for everyone. And we're looking to work with the women's officer and the trans officer in this in order to change attitudes around sex ed, change attitudes around queer people's bodies, and fundamentally overthrow this internalised idea that society often forces on us, that we have different sex, or that we are going to be less lonely, or that we can't find a partner in the same way. As officers, we want to change this idea of having a burden on queer people to discover how sex works for us. Many of us are young people who didn't have adequate sex ed and have huge pressures from our straight peers, and that makes same-sex sexual assault hugely embedded in a lot of the existing and devastating rape culture at Warwick University, and even more difficult to talk about. As officers, we are determined to change all this through our policy and our programmes, and integrating a lot of counselling and specifically queer wellbeing sessions into this to make sure that we can all receive the support we deserve.
Thank you very much. If we can go now to Bede's question. Bede has their hand up.
Quickly to you, Will. Is there a time? Sorry, I missed the first introduction. Is there a timing on how long we have for these questions?
So you mean asking the questions or answering the questions?
Asking. Like this floor section, is it timed?
No. I mean, obviously, don't go pontificate for ages. But yeah, no. As we've got a lot of time on our hands, so yeah, feel free to ask a lengthy question if you want.
Okay, grand. So I want to build on the questions of sexual violence. As you may or may not know, the university no longer has an independent sexual violence advisor and has decided to bring that in-house. How do you see that as interacting with your plans to counter same-sex sexual violence on campus? And how do you see your efforts building into the current university structures to deal with sexual violence on campus?
If this time we go kind of the reverse way up the list, again, just to keep it fair.
Sure. So obviously we're in an incredibly difficult position, and we don't expect to receive huge amounts of funding or support from the university for obvious reasons. However, we are hoping that by beginning a conversation with queer people on campus and creating a stronger queer community and really bringing together queer people from all kinds of backgrounds across campus, we can open up conversations and start to see what specific kinds of support people may need. We'd also like to really push for more direct disciplinary measures on sexual assault, bringing in hate crime legislation and attitudes around that in order to make sure that we treat this with the utmost of seriousness, and that we recognise that this is actually a very different form of domestic violence that other people may face across society, and as such we do need to act around it slightly differently. We do want to establish not just some punitive measures in recognising that abusers may need to be barred from classes until disciplinary hearings, but also bringing back the conversation to queer people who have suffered domestic violence, possibly through outreach programs and through working with those different charities, but also through really pushing for change at the university and attempting to bring back appropriate domestic violence counselling, work directly with the women's and trans officers on this, and campaign for change around that, because quite frankly it's not an acceptable situation that we've been put in. It alienates queer people all around the university, and it leaves many victims feeling helpless and overwhelmed and suffering from severe traumas. We'd like to change all that for the better.
Thank you very much. If the next candidate wants to say their answer.
Yeah, so thank you for that question. I wasn't actually aware that that was a position that had been sort of abolished, so thanks for bringing that to my attention. Much like my sort of counterparts there, I totally agree with the fact that the whole idea of sort of outreach programs and ensuring that those resources are available for victims of sexual assault. And I also think it's incredibly important that we sort of lobby the university to ensure that abusers are held to account for their actions and aren't just sort of, as we might have seen in the past, sort of kept swept under the carpet to sort of for PR reasons. I really, as part of my manifesto, is introducing, as part of the education course we all start when we join the university, that middle course. I want to bring into that better sort of understanding and knowledge for educational reasons of sort of same-sex sort of issues and same-sex sexual assault, so that everyone, when they join the university, has absolutely no excuse to understand the reasons for this. And through that, I would want to build off of those sort of previous outreach and workshops to just make sure that everyone has the opportunity to speak and not remain silent.
Thank you. Bede, is that a current hand or an old hand? I'm not sure.
It's a current hand. How are you planning to interact with staff? As you know, probably know there's the LGBT staff network, and they obviously do a lot of work parallel to yours. And I suppose so both academic and administrative staff. And more broadly, how are you going to interact with the existing LGBT advocacy programs and organizations on campus?
Thank you, Bede. If this time we go down the list again, just to keep it fair.
Thank you for asking that. I mean, we all want the same thing. Broadly, that is a generalization, of course, but this LGBT staff network, as well as existing Pride and LGBTQ societies on campus, all support and want the same thing for the queer community on campus. And that is to just ensure that we are represented and our voices are heard in university decision making. I would really like to work with, especially societies such as like Warwick Pride. I want to work with them to sort of set up sort of different socials. Obviously, everything has to be online at the moment, but hopefully going into second year, once we would eventually take up these positions, I want to work with these different networks to create events, hopefully with the support of the students, officers, and hopefully with the support of the university, to sort of bring the queer community more open to a more open space on campus.
Thank you. If the next candidates can say their answer.
Yeah, so we think that it's so important for us to build strong internal alliances across all factions of queer people on campus, and queer representation in academia is something that's so important, to be able to see people that look like you teaching you about things that are relevant to you as well, and especially in cases like social sciences, queer history needs to be incorporated so naturally because it's just as essential as any other history to learn. So we definitely want to stand with the staff as well as with other societies. One way in which we are hoping to do this is through panel events, where we can get them to come and talk, have speakers come and talk, and just have a really good solidarity across all of our different groups. Yeah.
Thank you. If this can be the last question from Agatha, if they want to unmute and ask their question.
Hi, yeah. I've noticed the candidates using the word queer a lot, and I was just wondering how you're gonna include students that aren't comfortable with that word, even as an act of reclamation.
Again, if we want to go up the list again.
Yeah, so thanks so much for that question. I think that's really important. Myself, I personally identify as queer, although for a really long time I wasn't comfortable with that word either. We've used the word queer quite a lot because for us it was a really important way of bringing attention to the fact that that is a word that we feel needs to be reclaimed. We wouldn't make, of course, all of our campaigning and time into reclaiming that word. There are other much more important policies that we've talked about that do need to take that space. We are hoping to move forward and integrate the word queer into a lot of our campaigning, a lot of our policies, the way we interact with other LGBT plus people across campus, people who use the word queer to identify themselves, and also as part of the events and sort of representative discussion events that we're planning on running. We'd like to discuss these words more. We'd like to talk about how our different experiences with the different labels and the different kind of discrimination we've received from a lot of these labels, such as the word queer being used over time, and of course the F slur, have impacted our lives, have impacted the way we deal with discrimination, with homophobia and transphobia on campus and before or after our lives here. We will do our best from now on and throughout the election week to recognise that everyone is comfortable with this word and bring in the different kind of phrases that we can use, but also open this conversation up a lot more. I think that's really going to be the trend for our entire next year, hopefully, if we get elected, which is really bringing everyone on, which is listening to these different ideas and is incorporating different experiences and views into our leadership.
Thank you very much. If the next candidate wants to say their answer.
Hi, so yeah, that's thanks for asking that. It's something I really was going to bring up. I wanted to bring up anyway about sort of the topics of discussing sort of self-determination, how people choose to label their own identity and sexuality. And I totally understand that from my own personal experience why people might not be comfortable with the word queer, and that is definitely one of those things that I would never sort of force that upon someone. I'd use it personally just as sort of generalized term, but I mean, going forward, I do always try and use the sort of LGBTQUA plus term as in an effort to be more inclusive and to sort of ensure that there isn't, people will feel comfortable with the language I use and to try and be sensitive in that matter. And like has just been said, I think it's great that we can sort of open this topic up for discussion, and it is a wonderful opportunity for people to discuss their own experiences as individuals in this community.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you to both sets of the candidates for turning up and also being so eloquent with all their answers. We'll just take a short access break now until 6 p.m. Just feel free to do whatever and come back for 6 p.m. and then we'll continue with the last two sets of candidates for the positions. Thank you. Okay, welcome back, everyone. I think we'll carry on with the last two positions. We got a request to open up the chat function just in case anyone is not willing to kind of say the question on mic, which is totally fine. So we're just working to. Oh yeah, I think Yaz has got that up and running now. So if you want to ask a question but are unwilling to kind of say over the mic, then just feel free to pop it in the chat, and we'll get Yaz to read it out. Or if you want to, you can email Yaz your question as well. He's fine to take any questions with his email. Okay, we'll move on to the next position, which is Trans Students Officer. We only have one candidate for this role, so I'll allow Abby to have 2 minutes. Abby, are you here?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
That's great. You have 2 minutes.
Hi everyone, I'm Abby, pronouns she, her. I'm passionate about trans liberation and representing the student interests in the student union. Trans students already suffered worse financial situations and worse mental health, and those are both things that the pandemic has obviously made more difficult. So as trans officer, I'll fight for mental wellbeing support as well as real financial support, and will recognise that those two things are not independent. I also recognise that transness, transphobia, they don't exist in a vacuum. They interact with homophobia, racism, sexism, and class. That's where I'll work with other liberation officers on intersectional issues and have them work with us as well. Trans people face an increasingly hostile environment here in the UK. So as trans officer, I'll make sure that our community is always a consideration within SU policies. I'll advocate for more specific support for us as well, as everyone has a right to a safe, accepting and comfortable university experience, no matter their gender identity.
Thank you very much. Okay, if anyone in the audience has any questions for Abby, then feel free to put their hand up now. We'll wait a few more seconds, and then I think we'll move on. I should just say, please don't email Yaz, actually, just for various reasons. You can email myself if you want to ask a question, and you don't feel able to use the chat function or the mic. I think we don't have any questions for yourself, Abby, which is fine. Thanks anyway for turning up. We'll move on to the next officer, which is Ethnic Minorities Officer. We have 3 candidates for this role. Is Harry Sun the first candidate here to say a speech?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Great. Feel free to start whenever you want.
That's calm. Yeah, hi, I'm Harry from Hong Kong, Harry Sun, and I'm running to be your Ethnic Minorities Officer. Having founded my own charity when I was only 12, and having only recently written and published a book on refugees, I have the experience of serving ethnic minority BAME individuals, and I hope I can get the chance to serve you as well. As an international student who's only come to the UK for the first time recently, within an hour of being in the UK, I was told to F off back to where I came from with my corona by a very drunk bloke at London Euston Station. That is why I'm running to be your Ethnic Minorities Officer, because while that is a very overt form of racism, racism can be more subtle and often is. I want to expose and pop the bubbles of hidden racism, especially those within the work community, and push for inclusion of more BAME voices in every single course, regardless of whether you're in the sciences or in the arts. Also, as a law student, I'm a passionate advocate, and I will advocate for the rights of ethnic minority students and promote their participation in, for example, the job market by hosting job fairs and by coordinating with societies such that everyone's voice is heard but also that more BAME voices can be featured, for example, coordinating with Warwick Film to ensure that Black or ethnic minority films can be showcased on a regular basis. So go on www.voteharry.su for more information, and that will be all I have.
Thank you very much. If we could have the next candidates to speak, just a reminder that you both got to speak within the 2 minutes.
Cool. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, that's great.
Cool. Hi, I'm Magisha. I'm one half of our EMOK candidacy. I'm a second-year English Lit student of an Elam Tamil background. I've been chairing the SU Development Committee the past year, and I'm on Warsoc's organising team. As a cohort whose first year was cut in half, we witnessed the jarring ways in which COVID affected student welfare. University already had the potential to be an alienating experience for students of colour, and this has been exacerbated by COVID. One such effect has been the suspension of many vital campaigns. From fortnightly drop-ins to awareness campaigns such as Black History Month, these are all crucial to improving the experience of ethnic minority students, and it would not be coherent for such campaigns to be unfulfilled or dropped. We believe that continuity, and more importantly, execution, is essential for systemic change.
Hi, I'm Fatima. I'm the other half of our EMO co-candidacy. I'm a second-year law student from a Pakistani background. I'm also your current Widening Participation Co-Officer and the Liberation and Diversity Committee Chair. Ethnic minority doesn't exist in isolation, nor is it a singular category to box us in. There's no universal approach to take on addressing the diverse experiences of students from ethnic minority backgrounds. We believe in taking a contextualized approach, and in order to do this, we have to account for all the various intersections, such as gender, class, sexuality, and disability. Therefore, a lot of our emphasis is on working collaboratively with other part-time officers, as well as liberation and ethnic societies, to maximise our reach and impact. Such an approach is vital now more than ever with the unprecedented effects of COVID-19. Ultimately, we want to ensure coherence, stability, and inclusion.
Thank you very much. Could we now have the third candidate to speak?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's great. The floor's yours.
Thank you. So my name is Sylvia, and I'm currently in my second year of studying history and politics. I'm the current women's captain for Warwick Handball, and I'm the treasurer for the Association for Norwegian Students Abroad. I also have experience within human rights activism and other type of volunteering, which you can read about in my manifesto. So I was born in Norway, but with roots stemming from Pakistan. And my drive to others is transpired from a young age when I experienced firsthand the differences between the countries. Like I've always been seen as the outsider wherever I go. So growing up in Norway, which is a predominantly white country, I didn't actually see anyone who looked like me until I came to Warwick. And it's such experiences that has shaped me into the person I'm today. And my biggest concern for Warwick and what I believe needs to be changed the most is the support services for ethnic minorities. We need to address the fact that mental health of the students at Warwick is deteriorating, especially in circumstances like the pandemic. And we all know that in ethnic minorities, health issues, mental health issues is often like disregarded and brushed aside. But the thing is, a healthy mind is the foundation of everything, and we can't really make any progress without it. There needs to be more well-being services aimed at ethnic minorities and their needs. Societies and sports clubs, as well as departments and faculties, need to work together to create an accommodating environment for ethnic minorities. And by doing so, we can start tackling other issues, such as academic diversity and representation. So I'm running for this position because I feel like I can bring my knowledge and my experience into the role. And I'll be the first to admit that I don't know everything there is to know about ethnic minorities and their needs, but I'm here to listen to your problems, work with you, and find a solution and fight for that. And I can and will help to change things for the better.
Thank you very much. That was bang on 2 minutes. Okay, now we'll open up the floor to any questions from the audience. So feel free to put your hand up. Yes, Naz, if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Hello, I'm the current co-ethnic minorities officer, and I do have two questions, but I'll ask my first one first, and then someone else can ask if they have another one, if there's someone else who wants to ask. But my first question is, what experiences can you bring to the role, and how will you work with other part-time officers?
Thank you. If just like before, if we can go the reverse order up the list, just to keep it fair for all the candidates. So could the first candidate please take the floor to answer this question?
Hi, so thanks for the question. And to answer the first part about what experience I have that I can bring into the role, first of all, being an ethnic minority, I've experienced a lot of stuff. Growing up in Norway, where I've experienced people that have been blatantly racist and structural racism, where I've been put up to the side just because of how I look and how I speak and my ethnicity. And I've grown up with those issues being around me all the time and being really aware of my skin color and how I look in a predominantly white country as Norway, which led me to join, say, Amnesty International, where I was lucky enough to be able to organize the AGMs, or the National General Meeting in Norway, and that allowed me to meet and experience the issues of other people and other cultures. I was lucky enough to meet human rights activists from all over the country that shared with me their experiences and their knowledge of trying to fight the system, you know. And I've been in the student council, I've partook in public speaking competitions, and all of these combined has helped me become the person that I am, a person that has a strong drive and devotion to help others. And I'm sorry, I have to ask what the second part of your question was. I'm so sorry.
Nazia, feel free to come back in.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It was, how will you work with other part-time officers?
Okay, cool. That's great. So, for example, campaigning is a big one. Like the other candidates also mentioned, that it is really important to keep campaigning, even though there are other issues such as a pandemic or whatever that's going on. You have to be consistent with that. So working with, say, the campaign officer and the welfare officers, we can work together to create a space where we can campaign and continue to like share our issues and problems and work together and just create this environment where everyone feels comfortable with sharing their ideas and also being able to feel safe enough to partake in their cultural events or events such as Black History Month.
Thank you. Do the next set of candidates want to say their answer?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first and then Nagisha can answer after me. So as for my direct experiences, I've already briefly touched upon the fact that I am widening participation officer, but I'm also the co-founder of the student advisory group, which has just recently been established. I've also got a lot of transferable skills. As a law student, I've competed fairly rigorously in mooting, which is a mock trial for those of you who may not know. The skills that you ascertain from those experiences, in my opinion, are absolutely unparalleled. You deconstruct really complex cases and issues, and you find coherent solutions, and this is often done under immense time constraints. I'm also project coordinator for Redefined Learning for Lawyers, which is a platform for aspiring lawyers from underrepresented backgrounds, particularly those from an ethnic minority background. We tackle issues specific to being an ethnic minority within the legal sphere, and of course that's directly relevant to recognising the experiences of ethnic minorities at university. In response to the second half of your question, I think I've sort of already touched upon it. So as WP officer, I have that really strong connection with the Widening Participation Network and the association and the actual staff at Warwick. So I just aim to work with the student advisory group and the network to address the specific experiences of ethnic minority students of a WP background. And that's something I've always felt particularly passionate about. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Could we have the next candidate to say their answer?
Yeah, so having first of all experienced a very direct form of racism, but also having founded my own charity, I do have the experience of working with and coordinating with other officers, but also to serve ethnic minorities. Because having run my own charity, I've had to coordinate the arrival of refugees into my city, Hong Kong, and to put them in free housing that we provide. That is a lot of administrative work, which goes to show that having, being 12 years old and still starting a charity like this shows an initiative at an early age, which means I do have the drive, which is very important, but also the experience of serving ethnic minorities. But also, I would like to highlight my inexperience or lack of experience with working in the SU. While I am a member of the development committee, I haven't really been involved in SU politics, which means that my vision is not necessarily clouded or distorted by any potential involvement with the SU. So I'm more than happy to challenge and point out injustices that I see without fear of or without bias, without fear of consequences or without bias.
Thank you. We have a question from I'm guessing that was a mistaken hand. If we have any more questions, just feel free to put your hand up, or Naz, feel free to come back in.
I'll just wait for if there's anyone else who wants to ask a question.
That's fine.
No? Okay, all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a bit more of a personal question. Obviously, as a Muslim woman, I found it quite difficult to navigate different spaces at university, particularly as a visibly Muslim woman. So my question is, what is your understanding of Islamophobia and how it impacts Muslim women disproportionately? And how will you fight to make campus a safer space for Muslims in general?
Thank you, Naz. Just in the aims of fairness, we'll go the first, down the list again. So if Harry could go first this time.
Yes, thank you for the question. Well, Islamophobia can exist in many forms, but I plan to tackle this issue by creating a dedicated safe space within the SU premises, where we can be just in without feeling prejudiced or without feeling threatened. Also, drawing on my experiences running a charity and running a campaign for victims affected by domestic or sexual violence, I plan to create a service or an app that allows victims of, for example, discrimination, no matter the degree, to immediately document and report their experiences to the SU and to the university. Because most oftentimes the biggest hurdle towards combating Islamophobia is A, drawing attention to this issue with the student population, but also B, tackling the perpetrators of these, I guess, attacks, these biases. And one way to do it is for there to be an easy way, such as an app or website, where victims of discrimination can just report that and have it dealt with professionally by an independent board at the SU and with the university.
Thank you. If I just can remind candidates, I don't think I stressed this at the start, but if we can keep the answers now to around 1 minute, just because of time, that'd be great. Could we have the next candidate, please?
Yeah.
Oh no, you can go ahead if you like. Go on.
I'm so sorry. No, Magisha, if you want to answer, go for it.
I just want to say, coming from East London, which has a pretty huge Muslim background, and all my best friends were Muslim girls since I went to a girls' school, I witnessed Islamophobia taking place, and I see it as a very prevalent form of racism, especially in this era of politics, which kind of others these people in a way. And we plan on holding fortnightly kind of drop-in sessions so that we can address these specific needs that they feel, any issues or grievances that they feel. We also plan on continuing awareness campaigns surrounding topics such as gendered Islamophobia. So we want to ensure that these campaigns are continued and implemented in the system of the SU. They're carried out every single year so that we can make this a long-term change that's effectively kind of implemented over time.
Thank you. Could we have the next candidate?
Okay, so I've written on my manifesto, one of the main topics I want to touch on is online presence. Something that I've noticed is that, again, as like someone who is Muslim and visibly Muslim, I've noticed there's a lack of online presence where it's a community where you can reach out to people and be able to talk to them about your own experiences or just trying to find a friend. So what I would like to do is create this online system where individuals can seek out societies and societies can seek out individuals to create a community where you can befriend others and talk about it. And it will also be a place where you can share information, say about campaigns and Islamophobia in this case. And to further help that, make it easier for, say, female Muslims to meet others, I want to make welcome week events that help to cater this, that can help them see others. And if there's a need for it, there could be a kind of buddy system where you can feel safe with another person.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's fine,
We
no
got to the minute. If we have any more questions, oh yeah, Naz, if we just wait a second, Naz, just in case there are any other questions.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Other people. Okay, Naz, take it away.
Yeah, sorry to be the only person asking questions. But so this year, because of COVID and because we've not had a member of staff to lead the Decolonise project, nothing has really happened with the project. Currently, the SU are in the process of hiring a Decolonise project manager, and I was just wondering what all of your understandings are of decolonisation in the context of higher education. Thank you.
Thanks, Naz. If we again go the reverse way up the list.
Okay, so like I mentioned, I study history and politics, which I'm not gonna lie is very Eurocentric. There's a lot of dead white guys that we talk about, which is something that I have raised issues about before, and it is desperately needed to be tackled. Academic representation is so important for mental health and for studying. And I think that we need to address the fact that a lot of our curriculum is entrenched with racist tendencies that we don't actually talk about, like different politicians or different authors that have racist tendencies or has had racist tendencies. And we desperately need to fix that, because we can't be learning and studying about these people without acknowledging their past and their racial injustices and issues.
Thank you. Can we have the next candidate?
Yeah, I'll take this. So in no attempt to oversimplify the issue of decoloniality, I take a module called The Legal Issues of the History of Race. And it's a loaded question, because university in and of itself is a colonial institution. So to sort of deconstruct a university and the things that we learn and the way that we're taught it's a big project to take on. My understanding can definitely be developed, but I think from my basic understanding, it's to do with the ways in which we're taught, the things that we're taught, how we're taught them, and I think we have a fairly basic understanding of it in general.
Yeah, just for adding on to what Fatima said, it takes place in many forms as well. It's not just what we absorb, but it's also who teaches us these things. Like, who is teaching us what we're learning? Is it a teacher of color? How are we going to find ourselves spaces in these environments if we don't feel like we can see, an educator in these institutions? So there are many ways in which decolonizing can be achieved, and that goes from the content that we learn, but also from staffing issues.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to. Sorry. Could we have the next candidate to answer the question?
Yeah. I come from Hong Kong, a former English colony, and I understand the drastic impacts that colonization has on my family and myself. One of the main things I understand colonization, I guess, is the feeling of inferiority and superiority. And to crush that, I would like to push for greater highlighting of ethnic minority voices, but also, for example, showcasing of films and projects that highlight the impacts of colonization, narrated by the people who are actually impacted instead of by, for example, educators or researchers that have not personally experienced the impacts of colonization.
Thank you very much. Do we have any more questions from the audience for our Ethnic Minorities Officer candidates? Or if you want, you can put it in the chat. It's completely fine. Just give a few more seconds in case anyone wants to ask a question. Who isn't Naz? Okay, I think if we have no questions, then I think that's it. I'd just like to thank all the candidates who have bothered to show up today and say their speeches. All the speeches were really eloquently said, and all the answers were really well answered. I'd also like to thank Yaz and Lindsay for helping me through this question time event today. And I'd just like to remind everyone who's still watching that voting opens on Monday the 22nd at 12 p.m. and voting closes on Friday the 26th at 7 p.m. And yeah, you're free to go do what you want with your evenings. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and we can stop recording. We can stop. I think stop recording.